Hello everyone, welcome to Wanda's Cafe. I'm your host, Wanda Dorn. So grab a mug and have some coffee with us. While we talk to some students here today, we're going to talk on the subject of school counselors. You know, parents, California ranks about 50th in the nation in terms of student to counselor ratio. That means that your children there are 500 students to one counselor in California. That, to me, is not acceptable. I think we need to find a more parental type of environment in our schools for our students. Since we don't have the parental participation that we should, that we used to have when I was in school. So I would like to see more counselors in the school, but I want to ask our students today whether or not I'm right. I'm going to ask our guests to introduce themselves and let them tell us what they think what kind of support we need, whether it's counselors or whatever other kind of support. And particularly, I want them to talk to me about the subject of school counselors. My co-host today is Catherine Yazayan. You'll meet her in a moment, but I want to introduce you to the students first. I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves and tell me a little bit about what you do at school, what school you go to, and can you start over here?
Sure. Hi, my name is Jasmine Sefian, and I'm a senior at Glendale High School. I'm a member of the Associated Student Body, and I also work for a campaign consulting company called EDH and Associates.
My name is Anthony Ortiz-Luis. I graduated from Verdugo Hills High School, and I'm currently attending Cal State LA, and I work for Youth for Positive Change Regional Collaborative.
My name is Tanya Drobnes, and I go to College of the Canyons in Santa Clarita. I'm also a graduate at Verdugo Hills High School, and at COC I am a senator in the Associated Student Government, and I also work for the Youth for Positive Change Regional Collaborative.
My name is Janine Stabanian, and I go to Glendale High School. I'm a member of the school newspaper Explosion, and I also work for a campaign consultant firm called EDH and Associates.
Catherine, can you go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about how, I know you're connected with the business partnership and so forth, and you work with the children, you even have children in school, so
Yes.
tell us a little.
Well, my name is Catherine Yasayan, and I'm a parent. I lived in Glendale for 22 years, and my two daughters graduated Glendale High School, and still I have a son in 10th grade. And I've just tried to bring partnership, especially business partnership, to school so we can have different programs. They can mentor kids, and there are a lot of programs that we can do through different partnerships.
You founded a couple of organizations, didn't you?
I've tried, yes. I've been through PTA, I've organized a few parents' nights, parent education nights, and also I've organized some clubs.
Why parent education nights? Tell me about that.
Oh, well, our parents, to help them to raise children. There's a lot that we should know, and the parents should know. And there's a lot that parents don't know, especially about our resources. There's a lot of help and assistance which
the kids are going to be talking about tonight.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to start again on this side, and I'm going to ask you to tell me what you think of my concern as to the fact that we don't have, to me, the counselors. We need counselors not only to tell the student what classes to take and to prepare them for graduation, which school, college, and university they're going to go to, But I also think that when I was in school, if I had a hangnail, I could go see my counselor and talk to him about it. Our counselors now are more or less academic counselors as opposed to social counselors. Tell me, what do you think of my concern?
Well, in my experience at Glendale High School, I've noticed that we have very few counselors for each student. We might have problems and it takes days for the counselor to call us in and talk about it. Or counselors just put us in classrooms where the classroom is empty and they need to put us in instead of talking to us about whether or not we need the class and if we should be taking it at all. I think that the school needs to hire more counselors, especially counselors that are educated and there to help us more than just to stick us in classrooms and help the school, to help the students.
Anthony, could you also first tell me a little bit about the group that you work with, and also then tell me what you think also was needed in the schools?
Organization is Youth for Positive Change Regional Collaborative. It's a nonprofit organization that started about 4 years ago at Verdugo Hills High School. What it is, our whole philosophy and emphasis is youth empowerment. We want to empower youth to help other youth, which is, in fact, there's more youth out there, and the resources that youth have and themselves, overcomes all the faculty and adults. There's more youth that can be able to help out each other than if you have, hiring more adults or more faculty. Technically, and in fact, there is a lack of teachers and substitutes and even counselors out there. There's not enough teachers, substitutes, or counselors that have the credentials or even have the, the education to be counselors or teachers or subs. And I recently heard from ABC7 that they're starting to hire like 18-year-olds as subs in other states.
Yes,
and it was such a surprise for me. I was like, wow, don't you have to at least have a bachelor's or even a credential to go in a classroom and teach a bunch of kids?
I heard that.
Yeah,
That's wonderful.
So my concern is Youth for Positive Change is we want to use the students as a resource to help other students out. And it's in our study, what we've seen, it's been working. Young people listen to young people more than adults because they don't have that idea or premonition that if they're older than me, they're not going to understand me. If you have somebody at the same age range as you, they're going to have that thinking, oh yeah, he can relate to me. He was just in high school. He's still in high school. He's going through the same thing I'm going through. Mm-hmm. So that's our whole philosophy at Youth for Positive Change. We got programs such as peer mentoring, peer counseling, and peer mediation, which helps out a lot the students in their social, academic, and physical health.
And is that mostly, these are LA Unified students?
LA Unified School District, yeah.
And what do you see as regards the counselor ratio? What is...
The concern is when I was in high school, the campus we were at had about a population of 2,000 students. Mm-hmm. And compared to other LAUSD high schools, it's pretty small, but it's still a big campus itself. We had about 4 counselors, so that gives you up about 500 students per counselor. And when I was there, I barely even saw my counselor. Unless I needed to change a class, and it wasn't really more of an atmosphere of, oh yeah, let me talk to you. If you have a problem, come in, let me talk to you. It wasn't like that. I think counselors are so busy with just doing paperwork, doing programming, doing a lot of the paperwork involving counseling that they don't really have enough time to talk to individual students that they have. And I don't think it's the counselors' fault themselves. It's just how this environment is now with the culture. It's just there's not enough counselors, there's not enough money in the budget to hire 20 counselors per high school. It's not possible. So that's at Youth for Positive Change. We want to focus on students helping out youth and students helping out each other.
Tanya, do you think that we need to find the money for the counselors, or is that something that I should not be concerned about?
Oh, no, absolutely not. Instead of hiring more counselors at schools, I think that what Youth for Positive Change is implementing is just training youth, training sophomores and juniors and seniors to be mentors to their peers. Mm-hmm. It's all about peer mentoring and peer mediation, to sit down with someone and know that you can confide in them, as opposed to going to your counselor who has a billion other things to take care of. They've got hundreds and hundreds of students to look after, and basically, it's not the counselor's fault, because they're just overwhelmed with so many students to take care of. They simply don't have the time to sit down one-on-one with a student that has a problem and have the student address their concern to them. There's just no time for that when they've got hundreds of students to look after and whatnot. So I think here it's completely voluntary, and students are trained, and you get like 120 hours of training, and we have sessions and seminars and weekend workshops, and they take place, at libraries or even at the beach or whatever. We make the setting as comfortable and as convenient as possible, and basically, I think that sitting down one-on-one with a student, that if a student's going to sit down with me, they're going to feel much better confiding in someone who's close to their age, who better understands them, because they might not be able to open up to someone who's older than them because they feel that maybe they're too old-fashioned or they just wouldn't understand.
And with your group, is it college students to high school students, or is it high school students to college students?
Actually, we have our peer mediation program and our peer counseling program. It works with high school students with high school students. Our peer mentoring program, we have college students. Currently, right now, we have Pierce College students and also CSUN students, California State University Northridge students, that are mentoring high school freshman students,
Right.
and they're helping them out academically. Just have somebody to talk to and say, what, how'd you do in high school? How'd you get through high school? Now in your college, and our whole focus is we're going to show somebody, a freshman kid that's having problems in high school, that look at him. He got through high school, and he's going through the same thing. He might have went through the same thing you did, and that college student's going to be able to help out that student by saying, as a role model and as a mentor.
Jasmine, what do you think? And first, tell me about the company that you work with and what you all do, and also tell me about the counselors and what do you think of the counselors?
Well, working with EDH and Associates, I worked on 2 campaigns in which the candidates are very concerned with kids and education, as well as the kids in LA schools, with the overcrowded schools that we have, that kids don't get the attention that they need. And in our school, we have over 3,600 students and maybe 2 counselors to each grade, and that is not adequate attention for each kid. You walk into your counselor's office and you are rushed in and rushed out and assigned to the class which is most convenient, which has the most amount of space. And looking back on my high school years, if I had gotten the expertise of somebody older that I myself have now, then I would have done much better in my high school years. If I had somebody back then to tell me, these are the classes that you should take, these are the classes that you shouldn't worry about, or these are the things that you should do to set me on the right track, I would be much better off. And that's not to say that it hasn't improved. It's improved very much since I was a freshman. But as a freshman, I remember getting little to no guidance and not knowing how to work the system.
And I think that's very important what you just said, because what I see is that even though we may have, they say, well, it's a parent's responsibility, but the parent many times don't know what the academic changes are, that they have to have algebra and they didn't have to have it before, they have to have chemistry, they didn't have to have it before, things of that nature. And they, even though they may be a PhD, they may not necessarily know academically what the student needs, as well as sometimes they can't always tell what's going on with the student personally. And Catherine and I were on the campaign. We were both running for the school board, Glendale Unified School Board, and we both, that's one of the reasons I wanted her to be here with us today, because she and I both have the same type of passion and concern for the students that I haven't seen in anybody else but the 2 of us. And so I didn't hear that from the other candidates. And but I know that you were about to ask a question to one of the...
Well, the idea of peer mediation is very interesting, and I think it's very important, especially in our ethnic groups. We need to bring, our ethnic groups. There are different organizations in like Spanish population or Armenian, which I'm aware there's a organization, AGBU in Armenian community, which they're doing peer mediation. But how effective, that's the important part, is that there is a program, but we have to follow through to make sure that it's effective and it's working.
Well, I can just tell you that our own statistics at Verdugo, last year, our fight rate was up like over there were over some 400 fights, or 400, I'm sorry, over 400 suspensions, or maybe, was it 800?
Actually, it was about 3 years ago when the dean came in. The atmosphere of the school was totally different.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fights, a lot of suspensions and referrals to the dean's office. But as soon as we implemented the program, it drastically kind of changed the whole environment and the whole climate at the
This is
school.
wonderful.
It went
Yes,
from
yes,
like
yes.
some 492 suspensions. This semester alone, we only had 13. And that's a dramatic drop. It's probably the lowest out of all the high schools in Los Angeles
Wonderful.
Unified School District. I mean, and when you look at those statistics, that's how you know how effective the program has been. It's basically a prevention program. We get to the core of the problem before it turns into something completely big, and before it turns into a fight, something physical.
Yeah, Janine, I'm sorry, I called you Jasmine. Would you tell me though? Do you think that counselors can help as regards the violence, school violence is happening across the country? Do you think that would help? I think that I do know that society has changed and the parents are not going to be able to participate the way they'd like to. And I'd like the schools to see the schools incorporate some type of quasi-parental type of environment in the school system. And I know that probably the best way to focus that concern is through perhaps counselors. And do you think that a peer mediation group would help at your school?
It would definitely help. Seeing as how it's so crowded, counselors don't have the time, or any time at all during the day to, give time to each student to help them out. So a kid in a school having problems would not be able to approach a counselor or administrator with that great of a population. So to have somebody else to turn to in that time of need, I mean, as opposed to picking up a gun and shooting kids, as opposed to violence or hitting another child or something of that sort, being able to turn to another adult or another person in that school, a peer even, to release the problems would really help. I mean, considering that there's so little adults nowadays in comparison, the ratio to students, having somebody there will elevate a lot of the violence.
Well, why do you think that the parents don't participate as much as they should?
Well, I think one of the problems is that a lot of parents, they're new to this country and they don't speak the language, some of the parents. And I've noticed in our school that the parent that comes in and talks to the counselor, their child gets what they need. They get to be put in the class that they want.
Interesting.
And most parents can't do that. They can't come in and they can't argue for their child's needs and wants. And so I think that's one problem that we have in our school that needs to change, is that the parents shouldn't have to be the ones who come in, and kids should not be been put favorites because their parents
can. Yeah. In other words, with more counseling, you need to have, with more counselors, I just think we need to build schools and not jails, and I think we need to get counselors because a lot of the administrative costs could be cut in order to support enough counselors there. After that Santana incident, one of the things that the LA Times, because it was just during that campaign and we were discussing the concerns of the counselor, the first thing they focused on was this great shortage in LA with our school counselors. So what do you think about do we really need more counselors, or do we need to just go ahead and start peer mediation groups, or do we need just people to help you with your academics?
Well, I really think that's a great program you guys were talking about having someone older come down and talk to you. We actually were thinking about implementing something like that at our school, a couple of the students, seniors actually. And we're still trying to get that started. But I think that having more counselors should be helpful too, but besides that, peer tutoring and having peer mentors is a great idea.
Can anybody think of anything besides counselors that would be a great support? We've got our counselors, we've discussed, we have the peer mediation groups that we've discussed. Is there any other types of support mechanisms that we need to put in place or enhance with what we've already got?
Well, I remember I don't know, we still have, or we used to have conflict resolution.
Yeah, but I don't. I have to ask the students: are the conflict resolution groups effective on these campuses?
Well, actually, technically, it's peer mediation and peer mentoring and peer counseling is not a new idea. It's been around for a while. The difference between the YPC model and the school model is it's not a therapeutic model. It's what you call the old model,
Okay.
where you have a group of students and a teacher teaching out of a book how to talk to other kids.
Oh.
And when you have a kid that has a problem, let's say we're in a peer mediation class and Tanya comes in a peer mediation session. All of us will be trying to talk to her, and it would be kind of, in a way, in my theory, be kind of ganging up, or she kind of feel forced to talk about her problems. The difference in our program as a YPC program is, the model that we have is, it's a therapeutic model. Excuse me. And it's more of a one-on-one basis, where you would get from your own counselor that you have if you're going to go to a therapist or a psychologist. It's a one-on-one basis.
Well, what do you all think about since we're talking about parents, what do you all think about the fact that the parents rarely are at school, or rarely seen at school? I know when they get into high school, a lot of times they don't want the parents there. I don't want you to come. But what is it that parents can do? Or do you think it's the parents' responsibility at all to help the students with their academic as well as school socialization?
Well, really, I think there's, in a lot of households, it's very common that there is a lack of communication between the child and the parent.
Okay.
And that is one of the problems. When there's lack of communication between the child and the parent, the child, won't be able to tell the parent everything or address their concern to their parent, and the parent will never know that they have to go down and talk to the counselor or talk to a teacher. I think what really should be enhanced is teacher-student relations, communication, because I think students want so much to have role models as well. I mean, as well as having, peer mentors, peer mediation. I think that students want to be able to have a one-on-one communication relation with their teacher.
Well, do you think that the teachers have time to talk to the students, or?
Perhaps. I really don't. I mean, I know that from high school that there are a lot of teachers that, that I really got along with, that I could talk to when I had problems, and a lot of them were very, very helpful, more helpful than my own counselor at times. And my counselor was very, very good, even though he had 100 students to take care of. And like I said, it's not the counselor's fault, but there is just so little time.
Janine, you were about to say something.
I think, as well as needing teachers to understand parents, I mean, it's the whole saying that parents are your first teachers.
That's right.
And without parents need to be educated on how the system works, on how the schools work. I mean, in my own situation, my parents come from a different country, and they need to know how the schools in here work and how the system needs to be worked so your child gets the best education possible. So to me, educating the parents is the first step. Like Ms. Yassine said, that teaching parents what to do, how to help your child, how to go to the school and get them what they need to succeed in their high school career.
So how do we get the parents out there?
Well, maybe the schools should reach out to the parents. I don't know, sending home brochures or programs.
That is our whole focus at YPC.
Yes.
I mean, our whole focus is not just, you do your own thing and you do it all in a different box. What we do as YPC is we turn in everybody's box and put it all in one big bowl. And we try to incorporate everybody and get everybody communicating with each other and telling each other how am I going to know about the system? How does my parents need to know what to do to get into the system and help out?
Catherine, you have, we're about to, our time is about up, so Catherine, do you have anything else you'd like to add just before we go?
Well, parents' involvement is very, very important, and the parents shouldn't be intimidated if, they're ethnic parents. They should come, and the schools have translators, and they're very accommodating. So I will urge all the parents to look into that.
And anybody else have anything else they want to add before we go ahead?
I agree with Catherine. I think that, that parents shouldn't be intimidated no matter what, whether they come from a different country or maybe if they're not as educated as, or, about the school system, that, they should still.
Well, do we have a friendly enough environment in our schools? Do the teachers, are they friendly enough to the parents when they come in?
I think so.
Parents need to get involved as well.
You're
Very
saying
much
parents
so.
need to get more involved?
It's both sides.
It's a both sides story. And how realistic is it that the parents are going to get involved?
It's up to the parents, really. And, on how well they want to be informed about their students' education, which I'm sure they do. And I'm sure that they need to find the time to do so as well. But until then, I think that we should definitely urge implementation of peer mediation and peer counseling.
Okay, and you talked about the school model of the peer mediation versus the model that you're talking about. Should we go ahead and continue the school model?
I don't think we should continue the school model because in our data and our experiences, it's shown that our model has been really great on interacting with kids and helping kids with their own problems compared to how it was,
And do you think that the violence would, do you think that if this would help with the violence? Have you seen that?
Definitely would help with the violence. When there's more communication, there's less fear, there's less worries, there's less anxiety between students and teachers and administrators.
Does anybody think that the metal detectors and things like that are going to help the schools?
Not at all. I don't think metal detectors help. If a kid wants to hurt somebody, they can wait outside of school until the bell rings and they come outside and they hurt it.
Exactly.
Metal detectors
You'd
are
just
not
be
gonna
opening
stop.
up to community violence as opposed to school violence.
What about what do you think about the kids having some place to go where it's confidential? Because a lot of times when you go to counselors, it's not, you see, it may not be confidential or felt. Do you feel it?
May I interject? Yeah, there's a program in Glendale called Crime Stoppers. So this is a very good program, but it needs to be promoted. Not everybody knows about those programs. So we have to promote, we have to encourage parents to get involved, and open communication between children, students and parents, and dialogue. This is very important, and I guess we need to put an effort and educate everybody.
Educate. Well, it looks like our time is coming short. I still think that we need to get more counselors, and I'm going to work as continuously as I can getting that message out to the California State Board of Education. I would like to see where we could have some more social counseling along with the academic. And I want to thank you all for coming. We're going to say goodbye to our guests, and we'll just keep talking here because the students have a lot to say, and I want to hear the rest of what they're about to say. So we're going to say goodbye to our guests, and we'll continue to talk. Where the committee that you're working with, and you're saying you're working with candidates, do you feel it's important for kids to work outside of the schools?